The twin sons of Velmera cast golden light over the royal palace, making its crystal towers glow like fire. Inside the palace, humans walked quietly, heads low. They were workers, servants, guards nevermore. Among them was a young man named Jace Weller, only 23 Earth years old.
Yes.
He came to Velmara 3 years ago as part of a peace agreement between humans and Velmarans. Like others, he was assigned a role beneath the nobles, working as a mechanic in Machine Tender Deep. Inside the royal grounds, but Jace was not ordinary. He had a sharp mind, steady hands, and a quiet strength that made him stand out. He was also assigned to someone very important, Princess Kalara Viren. First daughter of the High Empress of Velmara, was not like her royal cousins. She was curious about Earth. She read human history. She spoke human language better than most. And unlike other nobles, she did not treat humans as tools or animals. Instead, she watched the men, especially Jace, with thoughtful eyes. One morning, Kellara stood on the palace balcony, wearing a flowing white robe stitched with living silver threads. Her deep violet eyes scanned the garden below. She spotted Jace working under the damaged frame of her personal hover chariot. A spark flew out. Jace winced, rubbing his shoulder. Kellara raised her voice, soft but firm. "You are injured." Jace looked up. "It's nothing, Princess. You should rest." He smiled faintly. "Can't rest when the engine's still broken." Besides, if it fails midair, that could be worse. She tilted her head, curious. "You care about my safety?" Jace blinked. "Of course. It's my job." Kellara's smile was small but warm. "And if it wasn't your job," he hesitated. "Then, I guess I'd still care. They're strange." Conversations continued for weeks, while others looked down on him. Kellara spoke to him like a person. She asked about Earth's skies, its seas, its music. Jace told her stories of forests and families, old machines and quiet dreams. He never bowed too low, never flattered her with fake words. She noticed everything. One day, while preparing her hover chariot for a royal race, Jace found a strange blinking light in the main control panel. He checked the systems. Something was off. The power core was overheating, but the readings were hidden. Someone had altered the system. Jace reported it immediately. "Someone tampered with your transport, Princess. If you flew it today, it might have exploded midair." "Da!" Kellara's expression darkened. "You're sure?" He nodded. "It wasn't an accident." She stared at the machine, then at him. "You saved me." "I did my job," he replied, but she saw the tightness in his voice. He was afraid not of her, but of what this meant. That evening, Kellara was scheduled to ride the same hover chariot during a grand show in front of the nobles. She chose a different vehicle without explanation. But she kept the sabotage secret. Trusting only Jace, she also made a decision. From then on, Jace would be her personal attendant. The other servants whispered, "Why him? He's only a human. He'll bring shame." Jace heard it. Kellara heard it too, but said nothing. She now invited him to private study halls. She tested his mind with puzzles from Velmoran tradition. She asked his opinion on inventions. He fixed more than just machines. He helped improve old systems the Velmorans ignored. But not everyone approved, especially her cousin, Lord Rael Viren. Rael was a powerful noble, a skilled warrior, and a proud Velmoran. He had always assumed he would marry Kellara, someday bring their bloodlines together, strengthen their house. Now, he saw a human standing beside her. He laughed at first, but when Kellara defended, Jace during a council meal praising his insight, over a royal advisor Rial's smile vanished. He decided to act. One morning Jace was called to the throne hall. Armed guards stood on either side. He was confused. No one told him why he was summoned. The High Empress herself was not present. But Lord Rial stood in the center, holding a silver case. "Human Jace," Rial said coldly, "you are accused of theft. A rare gem is missing from the palace vaults. Your workroom was the last place it was scanned." Jace's heart dropped. "I didn't take anything." I'll open the case. Inside was a crystal shard glowing faint blue, the missing gem. Found inside your tool chest, Rael said. You will be removed at once. Jace stood frozen. He knew he didn't take it. But who would believe him? Then a calm voice echoed through the hall. I will believe him. Princess Kalara stepped forward, her cloak trailing behind her. Her eyes were steady. I demand a private investigation. Rael laughed bitterly. Are you defending a thief, cousin? I am defending someone loyal, an honest, which is more than I can say for others. There was silence. Then she walked to Jace and said, You will stay in the palace. I will speak to the Empress. That night, she helped him escape the guards and led him to the old library beneath the palace. Hidden and forgotten. You'll be safe here, she whispered. Jacek looked at her. You believe me? She placed a hand on his shoulder.
How you
Are the only one who looks me in the eyes and speaks the truth. I would trust you before 100 nobles. In the weeks that followed, Kellara began digging into the vault records. She questioned guards, tracked sensor data, and spoke to old AI systems. The gem had never been in Jace's workroom. Sensor scan was a forged echo. Rael had set him up, but Kellara couldn't act without full proof, not yet. Meanwhile, Jace remained hidden, living in the quiet shadows of the ancient library. He read books, wrote notes, and built tiny machines from scraps, music boxes, glowing orbs, miniature stars. He thought of Kellara often, and when she visited him in secret, they no longer talked like servant and royal. They talked like two people, from different worlds, reaching for the same sky. One evening, after sharing a meal of dried fruits and synth bread, Kellara looked at him carefully. When you first arrived, did you ever imagine this? We'd sit here like this, Jace chuckled. No. I thought I'd spend my years fixing rich people's ships and engines. Never imagined I'd be hiding in a palace with a princess. She smiled, and now. He hesitated. I think I was meant to meet you, even if it doesn't make sense. She lowered her gaze. It does. To me. Their hands touched lightly by accident, and on purpose. Neither pulled away. But danger still waited. Rael was preparing a speech. To the Empress, hoping to force Kellara into a royal bond with him and, finally remove Jace forever. Kellara knew she had to act soon. She had proof, she had courage, and in her heart, she had made a choice. She would not let tradition rule her, even if the stars themselves protested. Days passed in silence under the great palace of Elmara. The old library, forgotten by most nobles, became a quiet place of safety for Jace. The human mechanic who had been falsely accused of theft, he spent his time reading ancient books, repairing old machines, and building strange little devices that glowed in the dark. But his mind often wandered not to wires or engines, but to Princess Kellara. She visited him almost every evening, always in disguise. Wrapped in a long dark cloak, she moved through the secret tunnels of the palace, bringing food, news, and sometimes just company. Their bond, once built on respect, had now grown deeper. One night, Kellara arrived holding a glowing crystal tablet. Her eyes were serious. I have proof, Jace. Lord Rael framed you. Jace looked up, surprised. You're sure? She nodded. I found security echoes. Someone used a ghost signal to plant false data into the palace logs. Only a high noble with access to the royal network could do that, Rael, Jace said softly. Yes, he wanted to remove you because I refused to accept his proposal. Jace stared at her. Proposal? Kellara looked away. He asked the Empress for permission to bond with me. I said no, because of me. Her eyes met his again. Because I choose for myself. The room fell silent. Jace shifted slightly. So what now? If you tell the Empress the truth, he'll fight back. He won't give up easily. Kellara nodded. That's why we need to be smart. I need to present the evidence at the next High Council gathering in front of nobles, warriors, and witnesses. Rael won't be able to silence everyone. That's dangerous, Jace said. She smiled. I thought humans liked danger, he laughed. Some do. In the days that followed, Kellara moved carefully. She prepared her speech, gathered more data, and arranged quiet meetings with a few trusted allies. Among them was Tolan, an old Velmarin guard who had served her mother for decades. He remembered the days before humans came to Velmara. "I don't like humans," Tolan said bluntly. "But this one, ... he saved you. You trust him." "I do," Kalara said. "Then I'll help." Meanwhile, in the shadows of the library, Jace wasn't just waiting. He had begun building something, a light sculpture powered by old Velmaron crystals and Earth-style mechanics. It looked like a star rising from darkness, made from fragments of metal and colored glass. When Kalara saw it, she paused. "It's beautiful." Jace gave a shy smile. "It's a gift." "For who?" "For you," he said simply. "You believed in me when no one else did." Kalara touched the edges of the glowing sculpture. "This is more thoughtful than any jewel I've been given." But while their bond grew stronger, Ryle's anger also grew. He noticed Kalar was ignoring his messages. He heard whispers that the Empress was growing curious about Jace's sudden disappearance. So, Ryle decided to act faster. He approached the Empress with a calm smile and said, "Cousin Kellara has become ... distracted. Her judgment is clouded. I fear she's hiding something." The Empress raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" Rael bowed. "She protects a human criminal, one who was meant to be exiled. Why worry? He has influenced her mind, maybe even her heart." The Empress didn't respond right away, but her expression changed. "Then bring me proof, Rael, and if she has broken tradition, she will answer for it." The next night, Kellara didn't come to the library. Jace waited in silence, staring. At the sculpture he made for her, hours passed. Then he heard soft footsteps. But they were not hers. Tolan, the old guard, appeared instead. "She's been summoned by the Empress. Rael is planning something. You need to stay hidden." Jace stood up. "No, I won't hide while she faces him alone." Tolan sighed. "Care for her." "I love her," Jace said quietly. "Even if I shouldn't." The guard stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Then follow me." Tolan led Jace through secret tunnels, narrow halls, and old servant paths, until they reached a hidden balcony above the grand throne room. From there, they could see Kalara standing before the Empress and the nobles. Lord Rael stood across from her, arms folded. "You protect a human criminal," Rael said. "One who betrayed this house." Kalara replied calmly. "That's a lie, and I can prove it." She raised the glowing tablet, projecting images, into the air. The crowd watched in silence as the fake logs the real vault scans, and the ghost signal traces appeared. A ripple of murmurs filled the room. Rael tried to speak, but the Empress raised her hand. "Enough. You framed a servant to protect your own pride? You broke the honor of our house." Rael's face twisted. "You would believe her? Over me?" The Empress turned to Kalara. "Do I protect this human so fiercely?" Kalara took a breath. "Because he's loyal, brave, and because he makes me feel more like myself than any noble ever has." Gasps echoed through the chamber. From the shadows above, Jace's heart raced. She had said it. Out loud, the Empress stood silent for a moment. Then she spoke. "You may choose your path, Kalara, but if you wish to make him your equal, he must prove himself before our people." Kalara lifted her chin, then named the challenge. Empress's voice rang like cold wind. "He will face the trial of unity." A hush fell over the chamber. Even Tolan seemed shocked. "That trial hasn't been used in a century." "What is it?" Jace whispered. Tolan looked grim. "A test of the mind, spirit, and heart, created to judge if an outsider can become one with Velmarin ways. Many have failed, some have disappeared." Later that night, Kellara found Jace waiting near the garden. She had escaped the guards for a moment, just to see him. He looked at her with worry. "You didn't have to say those things." "I meant every word," she said softly. "They'll make me go through some ancient trial now. I don't even know the rules." She stepped closer. "You'll succeed, because you don't need to. Be like them. You only need to be you." He laughed nervously. "What if I fail? Then I'll fail with you." He looked at her carefully. The moonlight danced in her silver hair. Then he took a deep breath, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a small woven bracelet made of moon threads and copper wires. I have nothing noble to give you, no title, no wealth. And what's in my heart? He knelt slowly on one knee. Kalara, ... Will you be mine? She blinked, surprised. Then a slow smile spread across her face. So, you want me as your wife? Jace chuckled. I do. Kalara took the bracelet and gently placed it on her wrist. Then pass the trial, and I will stand beside you not as your princess, but as your partner. They stood close, hands touching, unaware that far above, eyes were watching. The next chapter of their journey was about to begin. Morning arrived with a strange silence across the royal city of Elmara. The twin suns rose behind the crystal towers, casting long shadows over the trial grounds. A place not used for many years, the Trial of Unity was ancient to test, made for those who wished to join. The noble bloodlines of Elmara. It was never meant for humans, but today, a human named Jace Weller would face it. The trial ground was shaped like a giant circle, with platforms floating above a glowing lake. Noble families gathered on high balconies, watching from above. Guards stood at attention. Even the High Empress sat on her throne, quiet and serious. Princess Kalara stood at the edge, her silver robe fluttering in the wind. Her heart beat fast, but she showed no fear. Jace entered the grounds, wearing a simple dark tunic. He looked up at the crowd but did not bow. He only glanced once toward Kalara. She nodded, her eyes locked on his. A voice echoed from the royal. Announcer, today the Trial of Unity begins. 3 tests will be faced: mind, spirit, heart. Only one who understands all can pass. Jace stepped forward. He didn't know exactly what would happen, but he had learned one thing during his time on Velmarat: truth, courage, and love meant more than noble blood. The first platform lit up with a glowing symbol. A small floating cube appeared in front of him, surrounded by shifting patterns and lights. Test 1. Mind. Jace stared at the cube. Strange runes appeared, shapes that twisted and moved. The puzzle changed every few seconds. It was a logic maze, one that reacted to his thoughts and movements. He closed his eyes, remembering something Kalar once told him. Velmaran puzzles are not just about solving. They are about understanding how things feel, not just how they work. He slowed his breathing, let his hands move gently across the air above the cube. Instead of forcing it, he listened to the rhythm of the shapes, the light pulses. The runes began to shift calmly, almost like music. Then dash click. The cube glowed blue and floated away. The announcer spoke again. The trial of mind passed. A quiet murmur moved through the watching nobles. Jace stepped onto the second platform. This time, a hologram of a crying Velmaran child appeared. A storm surrounded the image, lightning crackling in the sky. Test 2. Spirit. A voice echoed. Save the child, but know this. The storm is fake, but the fear is real. Act with wisdom, not speed. Jace looked around. There were no real tools, no ropes, just wind, thunder, and the crying figure. He thought fast. If he ran into the storm, he might fail the test by reacting blindly. Instead, he crouched and spoke calmly to the child. His voice was soft. You are safe. This fear is not real. I won't let anything hurt you. The storm began to fade. Close your eyes, breathe. I'm here. The child's image smiled. The thunder vanished. The platform glowed. Of spirit passed. Only one trial remained. The last platform rose into the air, floating higher than the others. Jace climbed the steps as the wind grew stronger. This time there was no cube, no illusion, only a voice. Test 3. Heart. Stood alone. A glowing mirror appeared before him, showing his own reflection. But then the image changed. It showed Jace as a Velmaran noble, dressed in fine robes, surrounded by riches and power. Kalara stood beside him, smiling but distant. Another image. Appeared Jace, as a simple man, living quietly with Kalara by his side, both of them working together in a small corner of the galaxy. No crown, no throne, just peace. A question appeared in the air. What do you choose, glory or truth? Jace stared at the images. The first one was tempting power, respect, freedom, but it wasn't real. The second image made him smile. That life might be harder, but it was honest. He raised his hand and touched the second image. I don't need a throne, I only need her. The mirror shattered into soft lights. The trial of heart passed. Below, nobles whispered in surprise. Some clapped, others stayed silent. But one thing was clear. The human had passed. Kalara smiled with pride. The Empress rose slowly from her seat. Jace Weller, you have passed the trial of unity. You may now stand beside a noble, not as servant but as equal. The crowd bowed in respect, except one. Lord Ryle stood stiff and angry. His plan had failed. He left the balcony without a word. Later, as the crowd left the arena, Jace returned to the quiet garden behind the palace. The sky above was painted in colors of dusk, gold, pink, and deep blue. Kalara met him there, wearing no crown, no robes, just a simple dress with soft crystal threads. You did it, she said softly. Jace gave a tired smile, barely. She stepped closer. You spoke truth in all three trials. Even when power was offered, he shrugged. Power without purpose means nothing. She looked into his eyes. So, now what? He took her hand. Now, I say what's been in my heart from the start. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small crystal ring, shaped like a spiral star, something he had made from the scraps in the old library. I don't care about titles, or thrones, or trials. I just care about you. He knelt again, slower this time. Calraverin, will you marry me? She laughed softly, a tear slipping from her eye. So, you really want me as your wife? He looked up. I do. Kalara knelt beside him and took his hand. Then stand with me, as my partner, my equal, my heart. They stood together, hand in hand. News spread quickly across Velmara and beyond. Princess and a human servant, now bonded in truth and unity. Some were shocked, some were pleased. Others feared what would come next. But Kalara and Jace didn't care about fear. They cared about what they had built together, a bond that no rule, bloodline, or planet could break. The announcement of the royal engagement between Princess Kalara and the human servant Jace Weller spread across Velmara like wildfire. In the palace, some nobles whispered with anger. Others watched silently, unsure how to react. The traditions of Velmara had never allowed a human to stand beside a royal, not as an equal, not as a husband. But still, it happened. The Empress had accepted Jace's victory in the trial of unity. She had spoken the ancient words of honor. By law, no one could challenge his place now, but hearts were not so easily changed in the Hall of Voices. The Grand Council Chamber of Velmara, a meeting was called. Nobles, generals, scientists, and old advisors gathered around the glowing center table. Crystal walls reflected their faces, some calm, some angry. The Empress sat on her high seat. Her face gave nothing away. Kalara stood tall beside her, her silver dress flowing like water. Jace stood behind Kalara, not in royal robes, but in a simple suit with a copper badge's symbol of unity. Eyes followed him. Some were curious. Some were sharp like knives. Then Lord Ryle stepped forward. I speak today not with hate, he began, but with duty. Our people have followed traditions for centuries. The royal bloodline is sacred, strong, pure. And now, a human, no matter how clever, claims a place meant for our kind. He looked directly at Jace. He may have passed a trial, but trials can be tricked. Can we trust that his heart is truly loyal, that his future child will carry the spirit of Velmara? The hall murmured. A few nodded. Some didn't move. Kalara stepped forward. Passed the trial of unity in front of all of you. You saw it. You heard it. Ryle didn't back down. Then let him prove it one more time. Let him represent. Valmaran just in peace but in danger. The Empress raised an eyebrow. You suggest a test? Ryle nodded. Yes, Your Grace. A mission.
Yes.
Let him lead a team to the mining colony on Zareth 4 where recent attacks have put lives in danger. If he can handle real leadership, real risk, then perhaps he is worthy. The room went quiet. The Empress thought for a moment. Then she spoke. Very well. Jace Weller will go to Zareth 4. He will lead a mixed team of humans and Velmarans. His success will silence doubt. She turned to Jace. Do you accept, Jace? Looked at Kalara. She didn't speak, but her eyes gave him strength. Accept. Later that evening, in the private gardens, Kalara sat on a stone bench, staring at the night sky. Jace stood beside her. She finally spoke. Zareth 4 is dangerous. There have been real attacks parites, smugglers, maybe even spies. I know, Jace replied. You could be killed. He nodded. I know that too. She looked up. Then why agree? He smiled gently, because it's not just about us now. It's about trust. If I walk away, the nobles will never accept me. But if I do this right, they might. She touched his hand. I believe in you. He held her fingers. That's enough for me. Within days, Jace was on a fast transport ship heading to Zareth 4, distant Velmarone mining world filled. With underground tunnels and deep crystal caverns, the ship carried both human engineers and Velmaron guards. None of them truly knew Jace. Some doubted him. Some were open. All waited to see if he would break. His team included Captain Trenavalis, a Velmaron security officer, proud and sharp. Eli Dorn, a human engineer who once worked on Earth. Lyronic, a silent Velmaran tech specialist. And a few others nervous but ready. As the ship landed, smoke filled the air. Zareth 4 was under attack. A group of masked raiders had stormed a mining sector and taken hostages. Jayak had no time to rest. He called the team together inside the base. I'm not here to play Prince, he began. I'm here to stop people from dying. If any of you don't trust me, I understand. But if we work together, we'll win. That's all I care about. Captain Trenna narrowed her eyes. You have no military training. Jace nodded. True, but I have problem-solving skills, and I listen. Sometimes. That's all leadership needs. She didn't smile, but she didn't argue. Over the next 2 days, Jace worked side by side with the team. He helped repair broken shields, guided the tech team through maze-like tunnels, and even negotiated with a raider contact who wanted to surrender. He never gave orders like a king. He asked, listened, suggested, and earned respect slowly. Then, during a rescue mission, he and Lyrinic found themselves trapped inside a collapsed tunnel. With only a few tools and no outside signal, Lyrinic panicked. We're going to die here. Jace stayed calm. No, we'll think. Together. He found a weak point in the tunnel wall and used heat rods to melt a new path. They crawled out, covered in dusts but alive. From that moment, Lyrinic followed him without question. By the 5th day, the base was secure. The raiders were pushed back. The hostages were rescued. Not a single person on Jace's team had died. When the team prepared to leave, Captain Trenna saluted him. You are not like other nobles, but perhaps you are better. Jace smiled. I'm not a noble. I'm just a guy trying to do the right thing. Back on Velmara, Kalara waited nervously in the royal hall. Wow. When the news arrived, mission complete, all lives safe. Jace Weller, successful. Empress allowed herself a small smile. Even some nobles nodded in approval. The final wall had started to crack. Jace returned to the palace the next day. He was tired, covered in dust and small scars, but alive. Kalara rushed to him in the garden, not caring who watched. She wrapped her arms around him. You're home, he whispered. I kept my promise. She looked into his eyes. God, you've done more than that. A few days later, the Empress called the nobles again. It's time not for judgment but for celebration. The human Jace Weller has shown honor, strength, and wisdom. By law and tradition, he shall be joined with my daughter in bond." Nobles stood, some in support, some still uncertain, but no one spoke against it. Kalara stepped forward, took Jace's hand, and smiled. The Empress looked at both of them. This is more than a bond. It is a symbol of change, of unity. Moment had come. The palace of Velmara had never seen such a day. The skies above were clear, the twin suns shining brightly. The air was filled with the sounds of gentle music, sung by glowing wind harp drones that floated above the royal garden. Royal banners, both in Velmaron crystal blue, in Earth's deep green, waved together for the first time. Inside the palace, nobles and citizens gathered. Some wore long robes stitched with silver lines, others dressed in simple clothes, but all had come for one reason. Today, Princess Kalara was going to marry Jace Weller. The human who had once served as a mechanic in the royal palisade had now become a symbol of change. Jace stood in front of a mirror, adjusting his dark ceremonial suit. The collar was decorated with small copper threads as request, a reminder of his days in the workshop. His heart was racing, not because of fear, but because everything had happened so fast. 3 years ago, he had arrived on this planet with no name, no power, no title. Now, he was about to marry a princess. A soft knock came at the door. It was Captain Trenna, the Velmoran officer who had once doubted him. Now she stood proudly as one of his guardians. "Everyone is ready," she said. Jace turned, smiling nervously. "Do I look?" "Okay." Trenna gave a rare approving nod. "You look like someone who belongs." Outside, in the royal garden, Kellara waited under the tree of light, a tall, ancient tree that glowed softly with golden leaves. She wore a flowing dress of living crystal threads. Her silver hair was braided with green vines from earth. She wore no crown today by choice. Today, she stood not as a princess, but as a woman, choosing her own future. Noble guests filled the seats. Even Eli Doran and Lyranik, Jace's teammates from the Zareth 4 mission, sat in the front row. The Empress sat silently on her throne, her face calm, her eyes sharp. Then the music shifted. Jace walked in slowly. All eyes turned. The whispers stopped. He reached the platform and stood beside Kellara. They didn't speak, but their hands reached for each other, fingers locking tightly. The Empress stood. Long ago, Velmara was a world of walls. Nobles on one side, everyone else below. But today, we take a step toward something greater.
Hey!
She looked at the couple. Today, a daughter of our blood chooses a partner not because of power, but because of trust, courage, and love. The Empress lifted a small silver scroll and unrolled it. "This union is recognized by the royal code. Do you both come here?" "Freely," Kellara answered, voice steady. "I do." Jace nodded. "Do. Then speak your words." Kellara turned first. "When I first met you, Jace, you were quiet, careful, and so different from what I knew. But you saw me not as a princess, not as a royal just, as a person. You gave me truth, not flattery. You gave me courage, not fear. Today, I give you all of me." Then Jace spoke. "I came to Velmara with no voice, no status, and no dream of ever standing beside someone like you. But you gave me respect when no one else would. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Today, I stand beside you not as your servant, but as your partner." The Empress nodded. "Then by Velmoran right and royal law, I bless this bond. May your lives grow as one, like the roots of the tree of light." A soft chime rang through the garden. Kellara and Jace stepped forward and placed their joined hands on the crystal heart of the tree. It glowed warmly, sending golden light through the garden. It was done. Cheers broke out. Some nobles clapped softly, others more loudly. The palace staff, especially the humans, smiled with pride. For them, this was more than a wedding. It was a change in history. The celebration began. Long tables were filled with food Velmoran sky fruits, earth-baked bread, sweet dust cakes, and glowing nectar drinks. There were music performances from both cultures. Human and alien children danced. Together under glowing lanterns, Jace and Kellera moved through the garden, receiving greetings. Some nobles still gave tight smiles, but many others bowed deeply. Even Lord Rael appeared surprisingly calm. He stood in front of them and bowed once. "You proved me wrong," he said. "I don't like being wrong, but I can accept it." Kellera nodded politely. "Thank you." Rael gave Jace a serious look. "Protect her. Not just from enemies, but from the pressure of power," Jace answered. "Always." Then Rael turned and walked away. Later, as the stars rose, Jace and Kellera sat quietly in the garden alone. The guests were still celebrating, but they needed a moment to themselves. She rested her head on his shoulder. "You're not afraid anymore," she whispered. He smiled. "Maybe a little. Not of them. Just of losing this. Of losing you." She looked up. "You'll never lose me." They watched the stars in silence. Then Kellera stood and held out her hand. "Come with me." He followed her through a small gate behind the garden. They climbed a stone path that led to a quiet hill. At the top stood a small structure, a round temple made of glowing stone. Inside, soft lights danced across the ceiling. It was peaceful, sacred. Kellera turned to him. "This place is called the Starbind Circle. It's where old Velmarin couples would make private promises beyond law, beyond tradition." Jace stepped closer. "What kind of promises?" She took his hands, the kind that last even when stars die. "Do you want to make one with me?" He didn't answer with words. He just nodded. They knelt together in the center of the temple. Hands joined, eyes closed. Kellera whispered, "Where you go, I go." Jace answered, "Where you fall, I'll lift you." She said, "Even if the world changes." He replied, "I'll stay beside you." And as they whispered those quiet, eternal words, the temple lights glowed softly like stars, blessing their vow. The next morning, the Empress called a final gathering. Kellera and Jace stood beside her on the palace balcony. Crowds filled the square below, humans, Velmarans, and even alien visitors from nearby systems. The Empress raised her voice. "Velmara is not just a planet of nobles. It is now a world of unity. The bond between my daughter and Jace Weller is a sign not of rule, but of hope." She turned to the couple. "You're not just husband and wife. You're the bridge between two worlds. May your life bring peace, strength, and change." The people cheered. Kellera and Jace looked out over the crowd, hand in hand, hearts calm and steady. That night, in their quiet chamber, Jace looked at her with a tired smile. "So, ... what now?" Kellera laughed softly and leaned against him. "Now we start something new." He pulled her close. "As long as it's with you." She looked into his eyes, remembering the first time he had proposed to her, trembling, but brave. "So," she whispered with a smile, "you still want me as your wife?" He answered simply, "Now and always."